It seems like police forces across the country are now getting their act into gear when it comes to investigating claims made via the Epstein files about human trafficking. Sussex police are appealing for more information about claims of sex trafficking happening via Epstein in Britain in the 90s. Bedfordshire police now looking into claims that Epstein's plane, the so-called Lolita Express, made several trips through Luton Airport. And as we heard yesterday, the Met Police is carrying out initial inquiries into close protection officers formerly assigned to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It comes after an unnamed former senior Met protection officer has told us that members of the Royalty and Specialist Protection may have willfully turned a blind eye during visits to a private island owned by Jeffrey Epstein. This afternoon, I've been speaking with a former Royal Protection Officer who was stationed at Buckingham Palace between 1998 and 2004. Paul Page describes his dealings with Andrew, including the way in which the normal processes, he says, of identifying people coming in and out of the palace were suspended to allow young women to come and see Andrew, including, again, he says, Ghislaine Maxwell. In the interest of total transparency, I'm going to tell you that Paul Page has previously been jailed himself, found guilty of fraud and jailed in 2009, but before that was stationed at the gates of Buckingham Palace and would be given the names of the guests arriving, but he says not for the women arriving to see Andrew. I asked him how often he would see women coming to the palace.
Right, on a frequent basis. So Prince Philip and the Queen would always furnish us with the details of their guests after hours, whereas Prince Andrew, when it's females, would not. We would get a call from his footman who would say, Prince Andrew's got a female attending the palace at 1900 hours. If you would call me, I will come down and obviously he'll pop his head out the North Centre Arch, just show her across the forecourt, or ring me when she's there. So a female would attend, a young female. Never ever I've seen anyone that I thought was underage. They've all been in their 20s upwards, all very smartly dressed. They would come, they would never offer a name. They would say, I'm here to see Prince Andrew. We would then ring the footman and he would come out to the North Centre Arch and we would just guide her over to him.
But when you say frequently?
2 to 3 times a week. 2000 is when I really started paying attention because that was when Maxwell started popping in.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah. I mean, look, myself and my colleague know who her dad was. So we said, that's not a good look, really. No one had done it in the book. You know, we were laughing and giggling about it. And we walked across the forecourt and we went through the garden gate. Adjacent to that was a footman and a maid, I think, and they were doing a large, setting up a picnic. An hour later, we came out, walked back, and Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell were sat together having this lavish picnic, intimate picnic. So we laughed and said, if the Queen looks out of the window and sees who's sitting on the grass, you know, it might be a problem, let alone the press getting hold of that. The rule was not to stop her. She's to enter when she's just to let her in. She had a free pass.
And what about the women? You say you didn't see anyone that you thought was underage, but you know, lots of coming and going, and they were young, 20-something.
Yeah, 20s upwards, but I never really saw anyone, I'll be honest, about his own age. That's fair to say. He was a nasty, horrible little man, and we've been on the receiving end of enough verbal beastings for him to know not to interfere with his guests.
Really?
Yeah.
So he gives you, if he thinks you've done something wrong, he'll tell you about it. He'll bend your ear, shout at you.
Yeah. So one occasion, I was there with 2 of my colleagues on the North Centre Gate. It was about 7 o'clock. Prince Andrew had just come in with his PPO, probably a bit earlier than that. It's obviously clocked. The 3 of us stood there because one of my colleagues was a bit tubby. I'm not going to lie. So we're standing there, and then we get a call. There's a guest coming for Prince Andrew at 8 o'clock or whatever it was. So this female turns up. And presents herself and says, I'm here to see Prince Andrew, with the usual format. So we do what we do. We ring up the footman. Only this time he doesn't answer the phone. So now we're in a position because we're stuck in the middle. We don't know who this female is. We can't get hold of the footman. What do we do? So we apologised. I said, we're really sorry. We're just going to have to hold you here for a minute until we can get hold of someone to confirm. So anyway, she said, I'll ring him on my mobile. We said, yeah, that's fine. So she rang him and she put it on speakerphone. And she said, oh, hi, Andrew. I'm just having a problem getting in at the moment. Before she'd even finished, she said, put one of the officers on. Well, my friend, the tubby ones, took the phone. And then he said, listen to me, you fat lad. Let my guest in now. I'm going to come down there. Exact words, 100%. And obviously, we just gave her the phone back and let her in.
Now, Paul has made no suggestion of witnessing any criminality, by Andrew, but there were lots of claims Paul made about what he says he saw of Andrew Windsor's behaviour towards staff and police officers, including when Andrew was apparently working up a sweat.
It was a nasty, horrible, self-entitled man, and he was a bully. And that's me being kind to him. I'll give you an example of how he treats his personal protection officers, what I saw. So I'm in one of the garden posts that overlook the lake in the back of the palace. He comes out, he's coming up to me. It's really hot. That's why I remember this day, because it's really hot. And I just wanted to sit down and mind my own business. Now I'm having to stand to attention and salute this individual, this idiot. And he's come out with his PPO, and the PPO is carrying a golf bag. It proceeds to plot up, look down the lake and start whacking these. This is Prince Andrew now. Oh, sorry, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And whack these golf balls down towards the lake. The next thing I see is the protection officer walking up and picking them all up and rolling them back to him. And I remember thinking, we're not ball boys, you know, and this is a highly trained police officer having to roll golf balls back to this idiot. It was really hot. One of the footmen came out with a drink and a towel over his arm, give Andrew the drink, and then he took the towel and he wiped his face with it like that. Well, what are you wiping your face for if you're not sweating?
As investigations now begin, Paul says he actually doesn't trust the Met to investigate allegations around Andrew fully, and that the Met in particular should have greater transparency about their investigations.
Scotland Yard, in my opinion, knowing what I know, bearing in mind I was on royalty and I know what was covered up there with us as police officers, should, at the very least, I'm not going to start casting aspersion, I'm going to deal with that another time, but should at least have supervision by the IOPC. Yeah, have an independent body looking at what they're doing and how they're progressing each and every investigation.
So that they don't try and protect the royals in the manner in which you think that they have protected the royals in the past.
100%.
So be really honest then, Paul.
Yeah.
What do you believe Andrew was actually up to? What is the real story of what was going on here?
We just thought it was a massive and a bit of a boy, because I get it all the time, all right? That you knew what was going on. These poor women were trafficked. Right, this was going back 20 years. How do we know what's going on with these women? We didn't even know their names. So how the hell we know they're trafficked? If they came up to us and said, look, I've been trafficked, then we could deal with it. But we knew nothing because we didn't know anything because we weren't told. So,
and if you raised a quizzical eyebrow about it, or you said to a senior officer, I'm not sure about this, would you be told to know your place, go and pick up golf balls?
I'm really glad that you've mentioned that, because that's something I forgot to mention. Complaints were made about this man, about his attitude, about the way he spoke to staff, about the way he is, we're breaching security. Because listen, we're there to do a job.
Now, Buckingham Palace has told us that this all is a matter for the Metropolitan Police, but it stands ready to support Thames Valley Police in its inquiries. The Met Police has told us that all officers are held to high standards and that the force hasn't identified any wrongdoing by protection officers. Initial inquiries into specific allegations have begun to establish the facts. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has strenuously, denied all wrongdoing, And obviously we have approached him for comment about what's just been aired. And people are obviously innocent until proven otherwise. But I can't help but feel that the carefully crafted mystique around the British royal family is falling away pretty quickly. And what we are left with better resembles the kind of smug, arrogant, entitled, rude self-indulgence of people who are cloistered in a world that is largely make-believe, but who are told to just get on with it and play their part. That behind closed doors, it's a bit of a basket case, and you don't need any of the information, allegations or whatever made in this particular story around Epstein and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. There are a whole array of incidents for generations that would suggest that this is a pretty unhappy family in pretty unhappy circumstances. Desperately unhappy people who have no real constitutional role to fill, who are nevertheless prevented through birth from being actual functioning members of society with proper jobs and normal responsibilities, and who we, their subjects, and now viewing as not something to be proud of, but of something to point and laugh at. The prince apparently having golf balls retrieved for him by his manservant. Were it to be true, is that a way of being? Is that a system created that you are happy to continue to support? That all of this pricks at the notion that there is a level of mysteriousness, of untouchability, that is actually just a crumbling facade, and once wiped away, what's left?